Elon Musk's thoughts on choosing meaningful work revolve around a single, uncompromising core idea. Work gains true meaning only when it is aligned with solving real, difficult, and consequential problems that matter beyond the individual. In this view, meaningful work is not defined by comfort, prestige, money, or short-term satisfaction, but by the degree to which one's efforts are directed toward outcomes that significantly improve the future or reduce genuine risk for humanity. Musk consistently frames work as a responsibility rather than a convenience, suggesting that the value of what one chooses to work on should be measured by its necessity and impact, not by how enjoyable or socially rewarded it may be in the present moment. Choosing meaningful work in this sense requires intellectual honesty about what problems truly matter, emotional resilience to face prolonged difficulty, and willingness to sacrifice ease in favor of importance. The core of this idea rejects the notion that passion alone is sufficient. Instead, emphasizes that meaning emerges when emphasizes that meaning personal capability intersects with high impact challenges that are objectively hard and objectively valuable. This perspective positions meaningful work as a deliberate choice to engage with complexity, uncertainty, and long time horizons rather than immediate validation. It assumes that the future is shaped by the problems people decide to confront today, and therefore the act of choosing what to work on is itself a moral and strategic decision. From this foundation, meaningful work becomes less about personal fulfillment in isolation and more about contributing to outcomes that would not occur without sustained, focused human effort. Building further on this core idea, Elon Musk's Think and treats the choice of meaningful work as an exercise in disciplined reasoning rather than emotional preference, where logic is used to filter out distractions and to surface what truly deserves effort. Meaning in this framework does not arise automatically from liking a task or feeling inspired by it. Instead, it is constructed through a rational assessment of what problems are sufficiently important to justify years or decades of focused labor. Musk's perspective implies that most feels meaningful only temporarily unless it is anchored to a problem whose resolution creates lasting value, and therefore the decision of what to work on must be approached with the same rigor as solving an engineering problem. This involves asking whether the problem is real, whether it is difficult enough to matter, and whether progress on it would measurably change future outcomes. Meaningful work, then, is not accidental, but the result of deliberately rejecting trivial pursuits, even when those pursuits are safer, more comfortable, or more socially accepted. The logic underlying this view assumes scarcity, limited time, limited energy, and limited human attention mean that working on low impact problems carries an opportunity cost that cannot be ignored. Choosing meaningful work, therefore, requires confronting uncomfortable trade-offs, including slower gratification, higher risk of a failure, and prolonged uncertainty. Musk's reasoning treats these costs not as drawbacks, but as signals. The work may actually be important, because truly meaningful problems are rarely easy, popular, or quickly solved. This way of thinking reframes difficulty as a filter rather than an obstacle, suggesting that the presence of complexity, resistance, and repeated failure is often evidence that the work sits at the edge of what is currently possible. In this logical structure, success is not something discovered after success, but something embedded in the intent and direction of effort from the beginning. The work is meaningful even before results appear, because its purpose is tied to necessity rather than validation. Musk's thought process also implies that clarity of purpose reduces confusion and burnout, because when the reason for working is grounded in long-term importance, short-term discomfort becomes tolerable and even expected. This way, the logical depth reinforces the idea that meaningful work demands alignment between rational evaluation and sustained action, where the mind accepts that progress will be slow, feedback will be harsh, and uncertainty will be absent for extended periods. By maintaining this alignment, the individual avoids drifting into work that feels busy but empty, productive but inconsequential. Thus, the logical expansion of Musk's idea emphasizes that choosing meaningful work is not a one-time emotional decision, but a continuous act of reasoning, recommitment, and prioritization, where meaning is preserved by consistently choosing impact over ease and significance over convenience. When this way of choosing meaningful work is applied in real life, its impact is not abstract or theoretical, but deeply practical, shaping how individuals allocate their time and endure pressure and measure progress over long periods. From Elon Musk's perspective, the real life consequence of committing to meaningful work is that daily effort becomes anchored to purpose rather than motivation, which fundamentally changes how challenges are experienced. Shutdown and workdays are no longer judged by immediate success or failure, but by whether forward motion, however incremental, has been achieved toward a significant objective. This produces a mindset where setbacks do not invalidate the work itself, because the meaning of the work was never dependent on short-term outcomes. In real terms, this approach creates resilience as individuals engaged in meaningful work are less likely to abandon their efforts when progress slows or criticism intensifies, since the justification for continuing exists beyond emotional reinforcement. The impact is also visible in decision making, where time is treated as a scarce and valuable resource that must be protected from distractions, superficial tasks, and low impact commitments. Choosing meaningful work in practice forces a constant prioritization of depth over breadth, where fewer tasks are pursued, but with greater intensity and seriousness. This results in a working life that may appear narrow from the outside, but is internally coherent and strategically aligned. And everyday execution, this coherence reduces internal conflict because actions are guided by a clear understanding of why the work matters, even when the work itself is exhausting or uncertain. Real life application also reveals that meaningful work reshapes one's relationship with failure. You transforming it from a personal judgment into data that informs better decisions. Failure becomes tolerable and even expected because meaningful problems inherently resist easy solutions. This reframing prevents emotional collapse under pressure and allows sustained engagement with difficult challenges over time. Additionally, the real life impact extends to how success is defined rather than external recognition or immediate reward. Success becomes synonymous with progress toward solving the underlying problem, regardless of public perception. This creates independence from validation, enabling individuals to continue working even when external feedback is delayed, negative, or absent. In practical terms, this independence is crucial because work that genuinely matters often lacks early approval and may even face resistance precisely because it challenges existing assumptions or systems. By choosing meaningful work, individuals accept that misunderstanding and opposition are part of the process, not indicators of failure. This acceptance stabilizes effort over long durations and prevents reactive shifts in direction that dilute impact. And real life, this consistency compounds as sustained focus on meaningful problems leads to expertise, and improved judgment, and increasing leverage over time. The work begins to influence outcomes more significantly, not because it became easier, but because persistence allowed understanding and capability to deepen. Thus, the real life impact of choosing meaningful work, as framed by Musk's thinking, is a working life defined by endurance, clarity, and long-term contribution, where effort is justified not by comfort or applause. Then you pressurize but by the knowledge that abandoning the work would leave an important problem unsolved. Looking toward the future, Elon Musk's view on choosing meaningful work gains even greater significance as the pace of change accelerates and the cost of misdirected effort increases. A long-term context, the problems that define the future are rarely solved through short bursts of attention or surface level engagement, then demand sustained commitment over years or decades, making the initial choice of what to work on critically important. Meaningful work, in this sense, functions as a stabilizing force across time, allowing individuals to remain aligned with long-range goals, even as external conditions, technologies, and incentives shift. Musk's thinking implies that future relevance is not achieved by constantly adapting to trends, but by anchoring oneself to problems whose importance persists regardless of changing circumstances. When work is chosen based on deep necessity rather than temporary relevance, retains its value even as methods evolve and environments transform. This long-term framing highlights that the future is shaped not by isolated moments of brilliance, but by continuous focused effort applied in a consistent direction. Choosing meaningful work early establishes a trajectory that compounds, where understanding deepens, judgment improves, and impact expands over time. from this perspective, the future rewards those who commit to important problems before they become obvious or widely accepted, because meaningful challenges often reveal their urgency only after sustained neglect has created visible consequences. The long-term importance of meaningful work also lies in its ability to guide decision making under uncertainty, which becomes increasingly critical as complexity grows. When the future is unclear, a strong sense of purpose acts as a filter, helping individuals decide what to pursue, what to ignore, what sacrifices are justified. Musk's framework suggests that without this anchor, people risk drifting between opportunities, expending energy without building momentum, and ultimately contributing less than their potential allows. Over time, such drift becomes costly as lost years cannot be recovered, and deferred decisions narrow future options. In contrast, meaningful work provides continuity, enabling progress even when outcomes are delayed or ambiguous. Its future relevance is also moral in nature, as the work chosen today determines which problems receive attention and are left unresolved for others to face. This reinforces the idea that choosing meaningful work is not merely a personal career decision, but a long-term contribution to shaping what kind of future becomes possible as challenges grow more interconnected and stakes increase. The value of individuals who have committed themselves to genuinely important problem becomes disproportionately high. Their accumulated knowledge, resilience, and clarity position them to influence outcomes at scale. Thus, in Musk's thinking, the future belongs is not to those who chase relevance, but to those who commit early and persistently to work that remains meaningful even as everything else changes.